Hey guys, it's Brittany with Find Your Fierce Coaching, and today I want to talk about the second thing in our series of the relationship goals. And we're going to talk a little bit about communication and finding like a healthy balance for it. I know that communication is one of the things that a lot of couples struggle with. Travis and I have struggled for a long time with communication. Primarily because I have a horrible temper, and I'm kind of hard to communicate with. So anyways, some things that we've really learned that have helped us that I feel like would be beneficial for others is just really having open communication. And so one of the things that we do is, usually it's Travis that says it most often, but he'll say like, okay, well, do you want to really know how I feel? And that's kind of this like code word, maybe is a good way to say it, for me to realize like, okay, he's probably going to say something difficult to hear. It's probably not going to be something I like to hear, but it's obviously weighing on him because it takes Travis a long time. Like it takes him a really long time to like be really angry about something to the point that he has to like bring it to me. So if he's like, hey, I need to talk to you and can we be open and honest, then I know I'm like, oops, okay, we gotta have this conversation. But it's a way that allows him to feel like, hey, if I lose it on him, he can be like, hey, I asked you and you said yes. It's a way for me to also understand that it's going to be something that I'm going to need to process a little bit. And so we have these kind of moments. I don't know if you guys have seen maybe the thing where the mom talks about having like a safe place. When her daughter brings topics to her to talk to her, they have like a safe place. So the mom is open and honest, and the daughter's allowed to talk about whatever she wants, and use kind of whatever language she wants, and then they sort of tuck it away. Well, for us, we don't tuck it away because we definitely have conversations about it. We kind of brainstorm together ways to improve it, but that word allows me to know like something intense is coming and I need to be prepared for it. So it's worked both ways for both of us, just to have that kind of like trigger word that's like, hey, I need to have this tough conversation with you. So he knows that he's warned me. I know that it's coming. It helps us kind of open that up. It's a safe place, because typically we don't do that in the middle of an argument. Usually that is something that is like, he's been stewing on something for a couple of days and he'll bring it to me when we're not in the middle of an argument. One of the other things that we do that has really helped with communication is we used to do a lot more. We don't have to so much anymore now that we really are kind of on the same wavelength, but repeating statements back, like, okay, so I'm hearing you say whatever makes you feel blah blah blah, and we did that for a long time. I actually was seeing a counselor at one point when we lived in Kalamazoo, and she said, you sounds like you're telling me that like he's not hearing what you're saying, and he wasn't. And so we would use the I statements. Like I would talk that way when I would talk to him. He would be very conscious in repeating it back to me, and then we would be able to really converse back and forth like, no, that's not what I meant, instead of kind of walking away from a conversation like, I think he understood me, and him being like, him walking away with a different interpretation. So that's really important. I know it sounds kind of basic and like maybe elementary. I know how I felt that way when we were first told to do that, but it has helped us tremendously to be able to repeat those things back to each other and have a conversation about it in the moment, instead of, there's a lot less miscommunication that way. We also really are pretty dedicated to not saying hurtful things to each other in the middle of an argument, because what ends up happening is you and your significant other get into an argument, you say those hurtful things, and believe me, I've been there. I have been in a relationship where there was a lot of derogatory terms used, a lot of hateful behavior, in the middle of an argument. I've broken a computer in the middle of an argument, and when the argument's done, I can't go back and unbreak the computer. You can't go back and unsay what you've said. So Travis and I are very committed to not saying those things that you can't take back. And the way that helps us is because then we're going to go through the issue. Maybe he did something that made me angry. We actually just had a situation this week where I was like, hey, I didn't like that. And I told him, I feel like I'm being rude to you, and I feel like this is why. And explained to him something that happened last week that bothered me. And instead of using hateful words, calling names, we very rarely call names. That's just a huge rule for us. We just don't really do it. But anyway, so we, when we don't do that, it stops taking away from the issue, because then, you're apologizing for calling your husband whatever, or, apologizing for breaking something, or, saying just like really hurtful things. That's what you're apologizing for. And then the court issue is still there, and it's not, talked about, it's not dealt with. And then that issue is still there. Like, it doesn't there's no communication about it. It doesn't improve. So you continue to butt heads about the same thing, because essentially in the midst of an argument, you created a whole new situation. So the other thing that we are very committed to, and if you have ever been in a relationship like this, or ever felt this way, Travis said it in a really amazing way to me one time, because we had a real breakdown in communication before we split. And he said to me, I used to not bring things up because I wanted to save the night or save the weekend. I didn't want to have that argument. But in the midst of trying to make the weekend enjoyable or make the night enjoyable, it ruined our relationship, because I'm pretty open. I don't have the best communication skills, but I will talk all day long. But he is more of a, bottles things up inside. And so he realized that in not bringing issues up to me, he ruined the relationship, because there was a breakdown in communication. So I encourage you and your spouse or boyfriend, whatever, significant other, to commit to saving the relationship versus saving the night or the weekend. Because sometimes arguments need to be had. They doesn't mean that they need to get knocked down, drag out, argument, fights, ruin a weekend. But if you're having a real issue with the way that you're being treated or the way that a situation's being handled, it's especially important for parents. There's a whole another slew of issues that come up. We don't try to save the night. We try to save the relationship. And it's very important that you stay committed to looking at the bigger picture instead of getting caught up on the little things, okay? And then finally, and the last tip I really wanted to share is was kind of piggybacking off of that. So one thing that we have found really works is just staying committed to openly communicating, instead of communicating like we don't carry on relationships with opposite sex, use that as like a venting or a communication. We always come to each other first. Obviously I've said things about him, he's said things about me, to friends, but we try to always come to each other first and at least announce like, hey, there's an issue going on, and maybe you need to brainstorm some ways to further that conversation. But instead of having your significant other be the last person that knows, I encourage you to reach out to them first and say, hey, something's been bothering me. I don't know how to make it better. I don't really know how to put it into words, but something's been bothering me. And I'm notorious for saying that to Travis. Like, I don't know how to fix it, but this is what happened and this is kind of how it made me feel, and I don't like that, and so I want to get back to you on it, but right now I just need you to know, for right now, like, I understand I might be being short with you or irritated. And along that same lines, like, not posting on social media. So if you guys have been following me on social media for any amount of time, especially during our breakup, I was very open, and even before that, I would say very snide. You guys may not have known as a follower of mine, but Travis would instantly know when I posted something. He was like, that was a dig. Like, thanks for doing that as a dig. Like, you could have just said that to me. You didn't have to put it on social media. So keeping social media out of your communication is really great. Not trying to post those subliminal Facebook posts or, subtweets, or sharing an article that you think your significant other should read. Just go to your significant other. Just communicate with them. Leave the social media out. Leave other people out of your relationship. For the most part, the only thing I say about Travis right now is that we're doing great. We're working on our relationship. We're really excited to get married. And that's it. I don't tell people it drives me crazy, that he can't put his laundry in the laundry basket. I'm not going on and talking about that all the time. I really, we have conversations about it. He knows that it drives me crazy that he can't do that, but I don't involve everybody else in our relationship. And that's helped eliminating all of those extras, eliminating all of the anger and the other people. Just, when you tell somebody something, for example, my parents knew essentially all of what happened between Travis and I before we split, and while we were split. And then it took them a long time after we got back together to forgive him. So now we really steer clear of that. We don't really share that stuff with other people. That's something that's meant between you and your significant other. And if you are making an honest effort to be communicating with them about your issues, chances are good that you're going to actually resolve those things instead of just venting and stewing and being angry and talking to everybody else. That doesn't help. That doesn't make your marriage or your relationship any stronger. So those are just some tips I have for opening up the communication lines. It's all very basic and elementary, in my opinion. I don't have anything that's profound, like, holy cow, this was amazing. Other than the fact that we really just got back to our roots and communicating with each other and being open with each other. If you're somebody that's in a relationship that's kind of struggling right now, it's going to be a long road ahead of you. I just want to be open about that because I've been there. So if you are somebody that's struggled with communication, take these little things and implement them little by little. Don't try to just go and change everything all at once, because it's going to be really overwhelming, and it's going to take some time. But honestly, if you just sit down and talk to your significant other, and even if you come to them like, hey, I'm feeling like we aren't doing very well right now, and I apologize for the stuff that I've done to bring us to this point. I really think that we need to work on communicating better. Just getting that off your chest and just communicating that to your partner is going to be a huge improvement in your relationship. So yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, nothing super crazy or mind-blowing or anything like that, but it just goes back to the basics, back to who you were when you guys, were in the beginning of your relationship, where that person was your best friend. You wanted to tell them everything. Your partner needs to be your best friend that you want to tell everything to. That's just the bottom line. It can be as simple or complex as you want to make it, but if you commit to openly communicating with your partner, even if they're not open to it quite yet, if you take the first step to communication, it's going to really improve your relationship. So tomorrow night, I am going to kind of expand on the social media, technological, all that kind of stuff, aspect of your relationship, and eliminating that to improve your, overall relationship and make you more successful. So I hope to see you guys back tomorrow night. I do appreciate you hopping on, and I will have a vlog up tomorrow as well. So have a wonderful evening.